On est devant la prison de Nuuk au Groenland où Paul Watson est emprisonné depuis juillet dernier. Comme vous pouvez le voir, on est vraiment au milieu de nulle part, au milieu de la nature sauvage du Groenland. On a obtenu l'autorisation d'interviewer le capitaine. On a 2 heures avec lui, donc c'est parti. Hello Paul.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Great, wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Please. On est venu avec des petits cadeaux de la part de la rédaction de Vakita.
Thank you very much.
C'était ton anniversaire hier, donc on s'est dit qu'on n'allait pas venir les mains vides.
Jules Verne. Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I remember visiting his home
Really?
a few years ago, yeah. Northern France, somewhere. Around the world in 80 days.
Yeah. On s'est dit que comme tu étais en prison depuis 135 jours, ça allait te permettre de t'évader un peu. Comment tu vas déjà?
I'm good. It's been almost 140 days here, so it's getting a little tiring.
Comment tu te sens physiquement?
Physically, I'm fine. My only concern is that I haven't seen my children since June, and that's the one thing that I regret the most.
Comment se passent les conditions de détention?
This prison is not so bad. The guards are friendly. The prisoners are all very friendly. It's run differently than most prisons. For instance, you don't have set meals. They give you a certain amount of money every Wednesday. You go to the store, you buy your own food, you prepare your own meals.
Okay.
So you can control what you eat.
Au magasin de la prison, est-ce qu'il y a de la baleine à vendre?
Yeah, the prisoners can buy whale meat and seal meat and muskox and reindeer, I guess, or caribou. What was surprising to me is that even if you're a convicted criminal in this prison, you can go hunting. They give you a rifle, and you can go out and hunt muskox or reindeer. And I said to the prison guards, well, you're giving them a rifle, and they're going, well, where are they going to escape to? There's no place to go to. But I just find it amazing that people get to go hunting while they're doing that.
C'est incroyable. Comment se passe une journée classique en prison? C'est quoi l'emploi du temps?
Well, they unlock the cell door at 8 o'clock and lock it again at 9 o'clock. So throughout the day, you do whatever you want. There's television, or you read, or you write. I get a lot of letters I have to answer a lot. Can't answer them all, but I try.
Comment ça se passe avec les co-détenus?
All the prisoners where I am are indigenous, Greenlanders, and they're all very friendly. In fact, when I came in, they all wanted autographs and everything.
Really?
Yeah, because Whale Wars was actually a popular show here in Greenland, so they knew who I am. Plus, also indigenous people have respect for elders, and I think they view me as an elder in that way.
Qu'est-ce qui est le plus difficile?
There's only one difficulty, and that's being away from my children.
Est-ce que tu peux leur parler régulièrement?
I'm allowed a 10-minute video call once a week.
10 minutes seulement une fois par semaine?
Oui.
C'est pas beaucoup. Qu'est-ce que tu leur dis à tes enfants?
Well, I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. A 3-year-old doesn't really say much, but he waves and everything. But my 8-year-old, we talk about his chess, because he does chess coaching every day, and he's like a prodigy in chess. So we really talk about what he's doing.
Quand tu as été arrêté en juillet, ici, pendant l'escale avec ton bateau, est-ce que tu as tout de suite compris ce qui était en train de se passer?
Up until I arrived here, I had been told that I was no longer on the Interpol red notice. It didn't come up on the computer. I went through passport control in Ireland, never came up. When I arrived here, I found out that Japan had issued a special red notice just to Denmark.
Est-ce que tu t'attendais à passer autant de temps en prison quand tu as été arrêté?
I was quite hopeful right from the beginning, because everything they're charging me with, the evidence shows that I was not part of the planning, nor did I participate. I simply wasn't there. The Japanese whaler who's saying he was injured got a tiny blister on his face, which the evidence shows came from pepper spray they sprayed themselves. And that could easily be proven. I don't see any validation or any justification for what they're doing here. They're not looking at the evidence. They're ignoring the crimes of the Japanese whaling industry. One whaler claims to have a blister on his cheek, and this is the reason that I'm here. So it's completely out of proportion. In October, the prosecutor tried to compare my charges to somebody shooting at innocent people with real bullets, which was just absurd. And she keeps using terms like the severity of the crime and how egregious the crime is.
Hier, c'était ton anniversaire, donc j'ai quelques images à te montrer. Donc ça, c'était à Paris, il y a quelques jours, au dernier concert du groupe Chaka Ponk, à l'Arena de Bercy, et voilà ce qui s'est passé.
Tous ces gens chantent Happy Birthday Paul.
That was very nice. Wow. 20,000?
20,000.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Qu'est-ce que ça te fait de voir ça?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing that there's so much energy, so much really love and support. It's very, very touching.
Hier soir, c'était ton anniversaire, tu étais dans ta cellule. Est-ce que tu as vu ce qui se passait en bas de tes fenêtres, en bas de la prison?
Yeah, you had a whale all lit up on the roadside.
Yes.
I didn't hear the sound. No, I couldn't. It's too far away to hear the sound, but I could see it. I actually had to stand up on the windowsill because you can't see unless you stand up on that. Well, that's how it worked. You don't see the cloth. I just couldn't figure out why the lights were. It was very nice, very nice.
What did you feel when you saw that?
Oh, it was incredible. In fact, I had other prisoners were knocking at my door to tell me that it was there, and everybody
Ah oui?
they were all quite impressed.
Donc toute la prison en a profité, quoi.
Yes.
Okay. Comment on explique que la France soit à ce point un soutien pour toi?
Well, I think that France has always had a lot of support for caring for the ocean. I mean, start with Jules Verne, go to Jacques Cousteau and everything, and I worked for a long time with Jacques Perrin, and on the film The Oceans on that, and I think it has a lot to do with France's long-time affinity for marine conservation, and they understand what I've been trying to do.
On a appris que la décision d'extradition sera rendue d'ici le 15 décembre par le ministre de la Justice du Danemark. Comment tu te sens par rapport à ça?
By the very rules which Denmark is obligated to take into account when they decide on extradition, it doesn't justify any of this because it's a minor accusation. It's a false accusation, but aside from that, it's a minor one. And it's also politically motivated, and you cannot extradite if it's politically motivated. And so I'm not going to get a fair trial. I'm absolutely convinced that if I'm sent to Japan, I'll never, ever come home. Because of the hatred that the Japanese authorities have for me. This is not about any alleged crime. This is about revenge for a television show, Whale Wars, which embarrassed Japan, humiliated Japan, exposed their illegal whaling to millions of people around the world. That's what this is really all about.
Est-ce que tu as peur de partir au Japon?
I'm concerned. My concern is that if I go to Japan, I won't return, and of course, then I won't be able to see my family again. As being afraid, no. I mean, I know what the risks of. I've taken risks all my life, and that, so that's not a consideration. But of course, all of this happened before my children were born, so it was a lot easier to take risks than now because of responsibilities I have. If Japan puts me on the stand and orders me to confess, I can't confess. I'm not going to confess to anything that they charge me with. And I'm not going to be contrite, and I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not going to say I'm sorry for anything I did, because I have absolutely no apologies for the interventions against their illegal activities. I'm not going to allow them to get away with their crimes simply because they're going to enforce an apology or try to enforce apology out of me for their crimes.
Est-ce que tu as confiance dans la décision qui va être prise dans le ministère de la Justice du Danemark?
Denmark has a history of respect for human rights. I have to trust that Denmark is going to abide by their commitment to human rights and also their commitment to their own rules regarding extradition. And that by those rules, I can't see how they can justify extradition. But ultimately, I don't think that they will extradite me, but they can certainly punish me through this process.
Certains disent le Japon est un pays démocratique, il ne faut pas avoir peur de sa justice. Paul devrait y aller et se présenter au tribunal de lui-même.
Well, a lot of countries call themselves democratic countries. That doesn't mean they're democratic. And yeah, Japan might have a democratic political system, but its judicial system is medieval. And I mean, even just a month ago, they released a man from prison in Japan who had served a half a century in prison and he was innocent on a murder charge that, you know, they didn't even bother to deal with for 50 years. They held this man, and you know, he was released without even really an apology. So a lot of people in the Japanese judicial system are, you know, convicted without much evidence.
Il y a une mobilisation dans le monde entier pour te soutenir. Beaucoup de personnalités prennent la parole. À Vakita, on a notamment interviewé Jane Goodall, qui a tenu à t'adresser un message.
Paul, I just know that I'm thinking of you, and as I told you, praying for your release. And I just hope that the Danish government will come to its senses and prevent your extradition to Japan, because if you have that on your conscience, then it will give you sleepless nights.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, she actually sent me a message here to the prison.
What do you think of her?
Jane's work has made her an iconic wildlife conservationist, with immense respect. And so I'm also very, you know, thrilled to get the support of many other conservationists around the world who understand that what this is really all about. It's not really about me. It's about a commitment to protecting this planet and the species that we are dependent upon for our very survival.
J'ai une image moins agréable à te montrer, parce que pendant que tu es emprisonné ici, que tu as dû arrêter ta campagne contre les baleiniers japonais, le Japon continue à tuer des baleines. Et on a notamment cette vidéo du Kangaimaru, qui est le gros baleinier japonais, qui a tué et capturé une baleine. Qu'est-ce que tu ressens quand tu vois ça?
Well, that's an endangered fin whale, and it's a crime to kill it. The Japanese whaling industry is a criminal enterprise supported by the Japanese government. Japanese commercial whaling was condemned by the International Whaling Commission in 1986. That was upheld by the International Court of Justice in 2014. So there can be no argument about what they're doing here is illegal. But that's a problem in our world today. We have all the rules, regulations, and treaties to protect endangered species, to protect the environment, but these are useless. They mean nothing without enforcement, and there simply is no enforcement. What I've been doing over the last 50 years is to enforce regulations where governments refuse to enforce. That's all. We're not even protesting. We're not protesting whaling. We're intervening against an illegal activity.
De savoir que ça continue pendant que toi, t'es emprisonné ici, qu'est-ce que ça te fait?
One of the reasons I was arrested this July is because Operation Kanjai-Maru was to try and stop this new factory ship from going down to the Southern Ocean to kill whales in the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary. And so that's what they're really concerned with, not with what I supposedly did or what I'm charged with 2010, but what they think that we're going to do in the future, which is once again intervene against their illegal activities. That ship, the Kanjai-Maru, it's built for the purpose of going to long-range whaling, the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary, or maybe the North Pacific. And so they can say what they want, that it's only for coastal whaling, but you don't build an expensive, long-range, large vessel to kill whales off the shore of Japan. You kill it to go to places like the Southern Ocean. And I think that my arrest has actually focused attention on that very fact, that this is what they intend to do. And now they're saying, well, we're not going to do it. Well, hopefully they won't, but because of all the attention brought onto them. But I'm absolutely convinced if it wasn't for the fact that I'm here now, that they would be right now in the Southern Ocean, killing whales in the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary.
Donc en étant ici, quelque part, tu continues à avoir une influence sur ce qui se passe au niveau de la chasse baleinière.
In fact, the publicity that we were focusing on this issue prior to my arrest was minimal. By being arrested and incarcerated here, it became international focus on what Japan is doing. So it's an ongoing campaign. Operation Kanji Maru continues. I just simply replace my ship with this prison. The prison is also a ship. Almost got the same view outside as I do from the wheelhouse of my ship.
On va revenir aux origines de ton engagement. Est-ce que tu peux nous raconter la première fois que tu as rencontré une baleine et quel a été le déclic? Comment tu t'es dit, je vais consacrer ma vie à protéger ces animaux?
I've been around whales all my life because I was raised in a fishing boat village on the east coast of Canada. But the one thing that really set me on the course, which I'm on still after all these years, was in June of 1975. I was with Greenpeace at the time, and we had come up with this idea to protect whales by putting our bodies between the whales and the harpoons. And our target in 1975 was the Soviet whaling fleet, which was operating off the coast of California. And Robert Hunter and myself were in a small little inflatable boat in front of a Soviet harpoon vessel that's bearing down on us high speed. And in front of us were 8 sperm whales, cachalot, that were fleeing for their life. And every time the harpooner tried to take a shot, I would position the boat to block the harpoon. And this worked for about 25 minutes. Then the captain on the Soviet vessel come running down the catwalk, and he screamed into the ear of the harpooner. And then he looked down on us and smiled, and he went like this. And that's when I realized Gandhi was not going to work for us that day. And a few moments later, there's this horrendous explosion. This harpoon flew over our head. That cable slashed in the water like a sword right beside us. Could have cut us in half if it had hit us. And it slammed into the back of a female in the pod of sperm whales. And she rolled on her side. She screamed. There was blood everywhere. And suddenly the largest whale rose up out of the water and then slammed the water with his tail and dove. And he swam right underneath of us and threw himself out of the water straight at the harpooner on the Soviet vessel. And they were ready for him with an unattached harpoon. They rammed it in, fired point blank range, and hit this whale in the head, straight in the head with this whale. And he fell back in the water. He was now rolling in agony on the surface. There's blood everywhere. And I'm only about 100 meters away. And suddenly I catch his eye. He looks straight at us, and he dove again. And now I see a trail of bloody bubbles coming straight at us real fast. And he comes up and out of the water at an angle. The next move to come down straight on top of us. And as I watch his head rise up out of the water, and I'm looking at his eye only a meter away from me, an eye so close I can see my reflection in that eye. I saw something that changed my life, and that was understanding. That whale understood what we were trying to do because I could see the effort he made to pull himself back. His head began to descend into the sea. His eye disappeared beneath the surface, and he died. He could have killed us, and he chose not to do so. I'm alive because that whale decided not to kill us. And I said to myself at the time, I'm going to do what I do in my life for them, to protect as many of them as I can. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I devoted my life to. And literally we have saved thousands and thousands of whales as a result, which I feel extremely good about. But you know, once you have that kind of course set for your life, there's no retiring, there's no stepping back. You have to take the risk to do what has to be done. And so that has really defined the course of my life for the last 50 years.
Est-ce que tu as des regrets? Est-ce qu'il y a des choses que tu aurais faites différemment ou que tu n'aurais pas refaites?
Tactically and strategically, I have no regrets. Administratively, I've got a lot of regrets. I trusted people I shouldn't have trusted. I wasn't paying attention to the organization or the administration of what I was doing. I was concentrating on the activities, on the campaigns. And as such, there was a hostile takeover of Sea Shepherd and Sea Shepherd Global. And these people then converted what we should have been doing into a mainstream approach. They said I was too controversial. They said I was too confrontational. They stole what I created. And except for Sea Shepherd France and Sea Shepherd Brazil and Sea Shepherd UK, they were the only ones who stayed loyal, not to me, but to the original objectives of what Sea Shepherd is all about. I created Sea Shepherd as a movement, not as an organization, a movement of independent entities and that are true to our original objective to protect marine wildlife and marine ecosystems, to intervene against illegal activities, and to do it with a strategy which I developed in 1977, which I call aggressive nonviolence. Aggressively intervene, but don't injure anybody. And in 50 years, we've never caused a single injury to a single person.
La justice japonaise dit que tu es un éco-terroriste. Qu'est-ce que tu réponds à ça?
I've never worked for Monsanto or BP or Exxon. So no, you know, in today's world, if anybody disagrees with what anybody's doing, then they're a terrorist or an eco-terrorist. It's a word which means nothing anymore. My definition of an eco-terrorist is somebody who terrorizes the ecology, who terrorizes the environment. And so I see myself as somebody who is fighting eco-terrorism, not as an eco-terrorist. But of course it's convenient for them to use names like that.
Beaucoup de gens pensent que l'être humain est une espèce supérieure, qu'on est supérieurement intelligent par rapport aux autres. Qu'est-ce que tu penses de ça?
You know, back in Biology 101, I remember the professor saying, here's a picture of the brain of a rat. Here's the brain of a dog. Here's the brain of a chimpanzee, and here's the brain of a human being. And you can see by the increasing size of the brain and the complexity on the neocortex area that the human is smarter than the dog is smarter than the rat. You know what they never put there? An orca brain or a sperm whale brain. Much larger, far more complex. Where we have 3 lobe brains, they have 4 lobe brains. You know, but it's a different kind of intelligence. You know, we measure intelligence by the ability to use tools, eye-to-hand coordination. We don't understand non-manipulative intelligences. Whales don't need cars. Whales don't need telephones. They can communicate over long distances and that. A dog, if you measure intelligence by the sense of smell, dogs are far more intelligent than we are. Intelligence is relevant to your environment. The best measure of intelligence is the ability to live in harmony with the environment. We also have to weigh, there's 2 ways of looking at the world. There's the anthropocentric point of view and there's a biocentric point of view. The dominant paradigm is anthropocentrism. It's all about us. It was all created for us. We're the only species that matters. Biocentrism, which is what indigenous peoples understand around the world, is that we're part of everything. We're part of a whole. We're connected to all other species. It's a law of interdependence. The 3 basic laws of ecology. The first, the law of diversity. The strength of an ecosystem is in diversity. The second, the law of interdependence, that all those species within the ecosystem are interdependent with each other. And the third, the law of finite resources, is a limit to growth and a limit to carrying capacity. When we steal the carrying capacity of other species, that causes diminishment in interdependence and diversity, which leads to ecological collapse. And that's the big problem.
Où est-ce qu'on va en tant qu'espèce? Qu'est-ce qui va se passer pour nous si on continue comme ça?
Well, I don't think that we've been very successful as a species. We haven't been around that long, and we give very little thought to the future. To be a conservationist, you have to look ahead 100 years, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, because the world 1,000,000 years from now will be defined by what we do today. And unfortunately, in our societies, we tend to not look any further than the next election or the next fiscal program or whatever. And we just don't pay much attention to that. What's this world going to be like 50 years from now? You know, I think that the younger generation right now are starting to really understand that, hey, this is my future on that. Somebody my age, I don't have to be concerned about it, you know, because I was fortunate enough to have been born into a world that has been probably the most materially wealthy and freest time in the history of the human species. It'll never come again because we simply don't have the resources. When I was born, there were 3 billion people on the planet. Now there's approaching 8 billion. Where does that end? And it's not even the terms of numbers, it's the terms of consumption, the resource consumption that's taken place on that, which is far, far higher now than it was in 1950. I noticed that our freedoms have been diminished. Things that we were able to do in the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s, we can't do anymore. 1983, I blockaded St. John's Harbor, Newfoundland, and kept the entire sealing fleet out from coming out. I couldn't do that today. So, you know, the laws have become more repressive, and those laws are designed to protect corporate interests. They're designed to protect those who are profiting from the destruction of our ecosystems. But we can never lose track of the fact that those ecosystems are the reason that we're alive. You know, I got a call from Brett Hume, who's a reporter for the Fox Network in the US, and he said, "Did you say that birds, trees, worms, and whales are more important than people?" And I said, "Yes, I said that." He said, "How could you say something so outrageous, so unchristian?" Well, because they're more important than people. For the very simple reason they can live here without us. But we can't live here without them. We don't live in a world without trees, birds, worms, and whales. We simply don't. We need them. They don't need us. And we have to understand that this is a spaceship that we're on. And this spaceship is on this incredible voyage around the Milky Way. And every spaceship has a life support system that provides us with everything we need. The air we breathe, the food we eat, regulates climate and temperature. And that life support system is maintained by a crew of engineers. And those engineers keep it all running. We humans are not engineers. We're passengers. We're having a wonderful time amusing ourselves, entertaining ourselves, but what we are doing is we're killing the engineers. We're murdering the engineers every single day. And there's so many engineers you kill, and then the machinery begins to fall apart, and the spaceship becomes unlivable. And I think that's what's happening right now.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a de plus beau sur cette planète selon toi?
Well, the most beautiful thing on the planet is life. I mean, the fact that we have such a diversity of life, and all of that diversity revolves around interdependence we're all connected. Every species on this planet is connected with every other species, and that is the most beautiful thing about the planet.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a de plus beau chez l'humain?
I think that humans have the ability to really make a difference. And that can be done through the application of three virtues: passion, courage, and imagination. Through those three virtues, you can change the world. Social revolutions throughout history have all came about because of the passion, courage, and imagination of individuals. And today, we have so many individuals who are making differences. We have to understand that each and every one of us has that ability to change things, and that the impossible can be possible through the application of those three virtues. In 1972, the very idea that Nelson Mandela would be president of South Africa was unthinkable. It was unimaginable. Nobody would even dare to even mention, oh, well, maybe he should be president. So the unthinkable became thinkable and possible.
Quel est le moment de ta vie où tu as été le plus heureux?
I've never been unhappy.
Really?
No, never been unhappy. I mean, the very fact that you're alive is all the reason you need to be happy. All through my life, there's been all these risks that I've taken, and I've never had any problem with taking this risk because I've always had a feeling that I was protected somewhat in that way. I still have that feeling. I don't feel that what's happening to me right now is going to be the end of anything, really. It's just part of an ongoing process. And even if the worst happens, say I get extradited to Japan, and say that I don't return from Japan, then what's left? A legacy. A legacy of action, a legacy of passion and imagination, a legacy of courage.
Mais tu referais. No regret.
Well, there's no choice, really. Once you've seen a truth, which I saw in the eyes of that whale, there's no going back, So it would be a betrayal of your entire life to go back on that.
Et à la fin, au moment de faire le bilan, qu'est-ce qui te restera vraiment?
I haven't really given it much thought. I think the most important thing is the fact that I will have passed on some understanding to my children and other people of the importance of protecting this world around us and the interrelationship between all species and how important that is. Respect for all life, all species, and that's the only way we're going to survive.
Si jamais tu étais extradé vers le Japon dans les jours qui viennent, c'est peut-être la dernière fois aujourd'hui que tu peux parler librement face à une caméra. Qu'est-ce que tu voudrais dire?
If that happens to be the case, then I guess I transition from being a defender of nature to being a martyr to this cause, because that's what Japan will make me. And well, we shall see. But, I can only do what I can do. But I find it absolutely incredible that I, as an individual, are being opposed by one of the more powerful economies on the planet, that they're actually threatening France over my case. They're threatening Denmark to cancel a windmill construction thing, a hundreds of millions of dollar project. They're threatening them because of me. Have I become that strong a personality that Japan feels threatened by me to the point where they're making threats against France and Denmark? I mean, that's incredible. What kind of absurd pride has the Japanese government got that they're putting that kind of power onto me? So whatever they do to me is going to have a severe backlash towards the Japanese government and unfortunately the Japanese people.
S'il fallait retenir une chose de toi.
One thing? I don't know if you can say one thing. That we don't live on this planet alone. We need diversity, we need interdependence, and we need to understand that our future depends upon that harmony between species.
Qu'est-ce que tu as envie de dire à tous les jeunes qui regardent cette vidéo?
What I say to young people is that you can make a difference, and never ever let anybody dissuade you that you cannot. Doesn't matter who they are. If you have a passion, follow that passion. Use your skills, your ability, your natural talents to make this a better world. And I see more and more of that happening. I can honestly say that the initiative and the courage and the passion and the imagination of young people today is far greater than it was 30, 40 years ago. And that gives me a lot of hope for the future.
On voit le jour qui est en train de se lever. Il y a quelque chose de très magnétique avec cet endroit. À la fois, c'est triste qu'on soit là à discuter en prison, et à la fois, il y a une énergie particulière dans cet endroit.
Well, I think it's the same energy here that I felt down in the Southern Ocean. The Arctic, the Antarctic, they're sort of the same. When I look out the window of my cell, what do I see? I see the same thing that I saw out of the bridge window in the Southern Ocean. The mountains and the ice, and occasionally I see whales.
Merci beaucoup, Paul. C'était important pour nous d'être là, et merci d'avoir pris le temps de nous répondre. Et on se revoit bientôt à l'extérieur, j'espère.
Oh, well, merci. Thank you for coming all this way for this visit. I know it's a long trip.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks.